Most people are ghosts walking in daylight. They exist, but nobody sees them, because they don't even see themselves. They wake up, they react to the world, they apologize for taking up space, and then they wonder why the world treats them like an extra in someone else's movie. If you want to be the man no one can ignore, you have to stop being a background character in your own life. Machiavelli taught that a prince must rely on his own arms, not the favor of others. That starts with your own mind. You think being nice is a strategy? It's a surrender. It's a white flag you wave every morning hoping the world won't hurt you. But the world doesn't spare the weak. It just overlooks them until it's time to trample them. To master yourself is to realize that your primary obligation is to your own power. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot lead others if you are a slave to your own need for approval. The nice guy is actually the most manipulative person in the room because he uses his kindness as a silent contract, expecting people to pay him back in loyalty. When they don't, he becomes a victim. A man of virtù doesn't make contracts he can't enforce. He builds himself into a fortress so solid that people have to negotiate with him just to be in his shadow. Imagine you're at a job where you're the reliable guy. You're the one who stays until 8 p.m. because the manager needs a hand. You're the one fixing the broken spreadsheets and the botched client calls that weren't even yours to begin with. You do it because you think you're building social capital. You think they'll remember this when it's time for the Christmas bonus. But then the promotion opens up. You've done the work of 3 men. Yet they give the title and the corner office to the guy who spent his time networking, looking sharp, and doing only the high visibility tasks. You're sitting at your desk, fuming, feeling the sting of betrayal. You want to complain. You want to tell them it's unfair. Stop right there. That anger is your inner prince trying to wake up. The problem isn't that they are bad people. The problem is that you made yourself too easy to use. You became a tool, and tools don't get promoted. They get used until they break, and then they get replaced. You solve this by immediately shifting the power dynamic. You don't quit in a huff. That's emotional and weak. Instead, you start becoming necessary rather than nice. You begin to withhold the very things that make their lives easy. You don't do it with a snarl. You do it with a smile and a busy schedule. Start prioritizing your own projects, the ones that actually get noticed by the people who hold the keys. When the manager comes to you with someone else's mess, you politely decline, or better yet, you trade. I can handle that, but I'll need a seat at the executive meeting on Friday to ensure it's implemented correctly. You are now trading your labor for influence. You are putting your growth before their convenience. Suddenly, the reliable guy has teeth. They realize that if you leave under pum da hung, the whole machine grinds to a halt because you've localized all the critical knowledge within yourself while cutting off the free samples. When they realize they can't function without you, they can't ignore you. You don't ask for respect. You create a situation where they have no choice but to give it to survive. This is the essence of self-mastery, knowing that your time, your energy, and your skills are your arms. If you give them away for free, you are an unarmed prince in a land of wolves. You must be the first person to value yourself. If you don't treat your own time like gold, don't be surprised when others treat it like dirt. You have to be willing to walk away from any table where respect isn't being served. That willingness to walk away is the ultimate power. It shows that you belong to yourself, not to the company, not to your friends, and not to your family's expectations. When you belong to yourself, you become a force of nature. You become the man who doesn't need to shout to be heard, because your presence alone carries the weight of a man who knows exactly what he is worth. To the world, selfish is a dirty word, a label they use to shame you back into the herd. To the man who wants to stand alone and be seen, it is his only compass. Machiavelli spoke of virtù, not as being a good boy or following the rules, but as the raw strength, the quick wit, and the cold ruthlessness required to get things done. It is the ability to adapt to the winds of fortune and bend them to your will. You cannot project power if you are leaking energy trying to please everyone around you. If you are always available, you are cheap. If you always say yes, your yes has zero value. You are essentially a commodity, and commodities are bought, sold, and traded for pennies. Think about that friend in your life. We all have one, who only calls you when their world is on fire. They need a favor, they need a ride, or they need 2 hours of your life to vent about a partner who treats them exactly how they allow themselves to be treated. You take the call. You sit there, nodding, giving advice they will never follow, because you want to be a good person. Meanwhile, your own goals, that business plan, that workout, that book you're studying, are gathering dust in the corner. You're literally drowning in their drama while they're using you as a human life raft. They feel better after the call. You feel drained, resentful, and 2 hours further away from your own kingdom. You solve this by cutting the line without an apology. The next time that phone rings with a crisis that isn't yours, you don't make up an elaborate lie. You don't offer a maybe later. You tell them, I'm busy with something more important right now. Even if that important thing is just sitting in a dark room, planning your next move, it is more important because it belongs to you. It feels cold at first. Your heart might race because you've been trained to be a servant. But watch what happens. The people who are using you will either start respecting your time because they realize it has a price, or they will vanish to find an easier target. Either way, you win. You've cleared the weeds so your own garden can grow. Virtù is about recognizing that your life is a zero-sum game of time. Every minute you spend fixing someone else's life is a minute you stole from your own potential. Machiavelli taught that a prince must be a lion to scare the wolves and a fox to recognize the traps. You can't be either if you're busy being a doormat. The trap in modern life is the guilt trip. People use your own conscience against you to keep you small and manageable. They want you to feel bad for putting yourself first, because a selfless man is a man they can control. Imagine you're in a social group where you're always the one organizing, paying the extra share, or being the butt of the joke to keep the vibe going. You do it because you want to be liked. But being liked is not the same as being respected. In fact, they are often opposites. The moment you stop providing that free labor or that free entertainment, notice how quickly their friendship sours. This is your proof that the relationship was never about you. It was about what they could extract from you. The solution is to become a predator of your own progress. You must look at every interaction and ask, does this make me stronger, or does it just make them comfortable? If it's the latter, you discard it. This isn't about being a hermit. It's about being a strategist. You only invest your virtù, your energy and talent, where there is a return on that investment. When you start operating this way, your presence takes on a heavy, magnetic quality. People stop seeing you as a utility and start seeing you as a destination. They realize that to get even a piece of your time, they have to bring something to the table. By being selfish, you actually become more valuable to the world because you've stopped being a beggar for affection and started being a master of your own fate. You put yourself first always, because if you aren't the king of your own life, you'll die a servant in someone else's. Machiavelli famously taught that it is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Most people spend their entire lives begging to be loved. They want to be the nice guy, the chill friend, or the team player. They think that by being soft, they are being virtuous. But in the real world, the world of power, respect, and results, being soft just makes you a target. To be the man no one can ignore, you must learn to wear a mask. This isn't about being a fake person. It's about being a person of consequence. It means that when you walk into a room, people shouldn't just see a body. They should see a boundary. They should know instinctively that crossing you, interrupting you, or ignoring you comes with a price they aren't willing to pay. Think about a typical situation. You're in a meeting, at a dinner table, or even just hanging out with a group of friends. You start to speak. Maybe you have a solid idea or a story to tell, and someone just talks right over you. They don't even look at you. They just hijack the airwaves. Most guys in that spot do one of two things. They either shut up immediately and wait for a gap that never comes, or they try to talk faster and louder, sounding desperate and annoyed. Both moves are a confession of weakness. You've just told everyone in that room that your voice is optional. You've shown them that you don't even respect your own words enough to defend them. You solve this by mastering the mask of command. When someone cuts you off, you don't get angry. Anger is a leak in your fortress. Instead, you have two powerful options. First, you can simply keep talking. Don't raise your voice, don't speed up, and don't look at the interrupter. Just finish your sentence at the exact same pace you started. It creates a physical friction in the room that makes the other person look like the rude child they are. Or, even more powerfully, you stop talking entirely. You go dead silent. You don't look at your phone, you don't look at your shoes. You lock your eyes on the person who interrupted you with a calm, neutral expression, the prince's stare. You wait. Eventually, the awkwardness will become so heavy that the interrupter will stumble, apologize, or trail off. Only then do you continue, exactly where you left off. You've just taught everyone that your presence is a one-way street. You give, and they receive. This mask is built on self-control. Machiavelli knew that a man who cannot control his own face cannot control a state. If you are constantly twitching, smiling nervously, or looking for validation after every sentence you speak, you are inviting people to ignore you. You are practically begging them to treat you like a subordinate. To fix this, you have to practice economy of motion. Stop fidgeting. Stop the customer service smile that you use to make other people feel comfortable at your own expense. When you speak, speak with the assumption that you will be heard. When you move, move like you have a destination. Imagine another situation. Someone makes a joke at your expense in front of a crowd. It's that backhanded, passive-aggressive jab designed to test your status. The nice version of you laughs it off because you don't want to make a scene. But by laughing, you've just signed a contract that says it's okay to disrespect you. You've helped them dig your own grave. The solution? Don't laugh. Don't even scowl. Just look at them and ask, with complete curiosity, "What do you mean by that?" Or, "Can you explain why that's funny?" By forcing them to explain the joke, you kill the humor and put the spotlight on their insecurity. You've turned the predator into the prey, without ever raising your hand. People don't ignore the man who is comfortable with silence. They don't ignore the man who doesn't feel the need to fill every gap with nervous chatter. They study him. They wonder what he's thinking. They wonder what he's capable of. This is the fear Machiavelli talked about. Not the fear of a bully, but the fear of the unknown. When you master your own reactions, you control the temperature of the room. You become the sun, and everyone else is just a planet trying to find a stable orbit around you. You put yourself first by protecting your dignity above their comfort. Every single time. Everything in this life is a trade. If you think people love you for who you are deep down inside, you're living in a fairy tale. People love you for what you provide, what you represent, or how you make them feel. To be the man no one can ignore, you must stop being a consumer of other people's value and start being the source of your own. Machiavelli taught that fortune is like a violent river. She destroys those who don't build dams and dikes to control her. Your calculated heart is that dam. It is the part of you that stops reacting emotionally and starts acting strategically. You put yourself first always, because if you aren't the king of your own life, you are just a pawn in someone else's game. Think about your current circle, the people you spend your time with, your bank account, and the way you look in the mirror. If those things are weak, it's because you've been charitable with your focus. You've been building someone else's kingdom. You spend 8 hours a day making a boss rich, then 4 hours a day watching content created by people who are getting rich off your attention. You're tired because you're giving away your best energy to things that don't belong to you. You're the guy who helps a friend move on his only day off, or the guy who stays on the phone for 3 hours helping someone else solve a problem they created themselves. You think you're being a brother, but you're actually just a backup plan. You solve this by becoming a cold accountant of your own life. You start looking at every minute and every dollar as an investment. Imagine a situation where you're invited to a party or a hangout that you know is a waste of time. Everyone will be there drinking, complaining about their lives, and staying exactly the same. The old you would go because you don't want to miss out, or you don't want to hurt feelings. The new you calculates the cost. That's 5 hours of sleep, $50 in drinks, and a hangover that ruins tomorrow's workout. The cost is too high. You stay home. You work on your skill, you read, or you sleep. When people complain that you've changed, or that you're acting brand new, take it as a massive compliment. It means you've finally stopped being easy to use. This isn't about being a hermit. It's about being a man of high value. Machiavelli knew that a prince who is too liberal with his wealth and time eventually becomes poor and despised. If you give everything away, you have nothing left to command respect. You have to be the sun. The sun doesn't chase the planets to keep them in line. It just sits there, burning with its own incredible energy, and the planets have no choice but to orbit it. When you spend your time building your own body, your own business, and your own mind, you create a gravity that other people can feel. They will want to be near you, not because you're nice, but because you are a winner. The solution to being ignored is to become so competent that your absence is felt like a tragedy. If you stopped showing up to your social circle tomorrow, would their lives get harder or stay the same? If it stays the same, you have no leverage. You get out of that by becoming the man who has the answers, the man who has the resources, and the man who has the discipline they all wish they had. You don't chase women, you don't chase friends, and you don't chase vibes. You chase your own potential with a calculated, relentless heart. When you put yourself first, you aren't being evil. You are being responsible. You are taking the one life you have and making it something that can't be brushed aside. You become a man of consequence. You become the man who decides who gets his time and who doesn't. And once you have that power, you'll find that the world stops ignoring you and starts asking you for permission. You are the architect, the builder, and the ruler of your own world. Put yourself first, because in the end, you're the only one who's going to be there. To be the man no one can ignore, you must have a code that is harder than the world trying to break it. Read this every morning until it isn't something you do, but who you are. Machiavelli knew that the climb to the top is lonely, but the view is only for those who refuse to look back. I am my own first priority. I will not apologize for building my kingdom while others sleep or complain. My time is my currency, and I do not give it away for free. I rely on my own arms. I will never put my fate in the hands of luck or the kindness of others. I will be so competent that the world has no choice but to pay my price. I am the master of my face. I will not leak power through nervous smiles or useless chatter. My silence is a weapon, and my words are a command. I am necessary, not nice. I will stop trying to be liked and start being essential. If the machine can run without me, I haven't worked hard enough on my leverage. I calculate every trade. I will look at every favor and every friendship through the lens of Virtù. If it drains my energy without building my power, I cut the line. I welcome the fear of the weak. If people call me cold or different, I know I am winning. I would rather be respected for my strength than pitied for my goodness. I am the architect of my own fortune. Fortune is a river, and I am the dam. I will take what is mine by force of will and keep it through the strength of my character. You are the prince. You are the lion. You are the fox. Put yourself first always, and watch how quickly the world falls into line. If you've made it to the end of this breakdown, you're already part of the 1% who actually finishes what they start. Most people will scroll past this, go back to their comfortable habits, and wonder why their life feels like a repeat of last year. But you? You're here because you know the nice guy script is a lie, and you're ready to start building your own kingdom. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below with the word always first. Let the world know you've officially stopped asking for permission. Tell me which part of the Machiavellian code you're implementing today. Are you setting a boundary at work? Are you cutting off a drain on your energy? I read every comment, and I want to know who is actually putting these tools to use. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. In a world of distractions, you need a constant stream of cold, hard strategy to keep your Virtù sharp. Don't leave your growth to chance. Make sure you're here every time we drop a new blueprint for power. Remember, the world doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you have the power to take. Stop waiting for a seat at the table and start building your own. Put yourself first, always. I'll see you in the next one.